do-or-die game, and Detroit completes the largest comeback win in Detroit's BGD. That was clean. 24-die game and completes the largest comeback win in Detroit. Just watch, Steve. Unbelievable. I mean, we came in at halftime. We came in at halftime talking about Detroit, how poor they were, and how they didn't defend, and how they were disorganized on offense. I mean, what a turnaround, what a mentality from Detroit to come out, try to punch first in the second half. I mean, their defense was unbelievable. I mean, we got 18 or something in the second half. Like 18 points in the second half. I mean, come on, that's worse than Atlanta lost. Lots to discuss with both the collapse and the comeback, but it's time right now for Changing the Game, presented by Universal Orlando Resort. An incredible performance here from Cade Cunningham to fuel the Pistons' incredible comeback, scoring 19 in the fourth quarter, 32 in the game. The Pistons came back from 24 points down, outscored Orlando 55-19 in the second half. And this was truly a historic collapse, the largest halftime deficit overcome in an elimination game in playoff history. Orlando was up 22 at halftime, had 60 total points in the half, scored just 19 in the second. What led to this collapse? I mean, when you miss 23 in a row, chances are the team will have a chance to beat. But the way they were missing those shots, I think they fell in love with the pick and roll and just trying to get downhill and target dunking and certain guys they wanted to target. And then when the ball did switch, instead of driving the ball and getting a better shot, it was just a lot of jacking. I don't think they were very patient with their offense. They didn't make Detroit's defense work a lot. Detroit's defense is great against the pick and roll. That is what they do well. They defend well against the pick and roll. So if you think you just want to consecutive misses in NBA playoff history. We're saying a lot of history was made tonight and none of it is good, guys. There's the tale of two. I mean, everything we said about Detroit at halftime, they came out and corrected, and everything that Orlando did good, they didn't do again. Ever. At some point, like, call a timeout. We haven't gotten a good shot in 15 minutes. Call a timeout and draw up something. Give me a post, something, anything. That was shocking. It was hard to watch. Also, I mean, at some point, Golden, because it was great in the first half, his energy, like, that's why Orlando was up. So, how do you come back out and come out so flat? Like, you just got lulled to sleep. I mean, leads can just give you such a false sense of security because they were playing one way in the first half and didn't do it in the second. It was just so quick. Yeah, I thought in the first half, the ball, it went in the lane. Detroit collapsed, kicked it out, had good shots. Magic had 16 assists at halftime. They were getting good shots. What we just watched was a bunch of hold the ball, contested shots, dribble in there, pump fake, lean back, contested shots. Just didn't work enough to get good shots. I mean, they were 4 for 37 field goals in the second half. Also, just to let you know to say where to go from here is no lackadaisical passes. Like, that just, it will get you beat every time. And after the first 2 or 3, you'd think they would, we had this under control, but that's probably one of the most frustrating things that we were watching, and it's just like, how can you possibly think it's okay to just make a pass like this when a guy's 5 feet away? It's frustrating that we sitting over here and not playing it, they only gonna score 80 points. So they only gonna score 79, we might as well make some more points. I think that we're here, that is 80s basketball. I give you 4 free throws and 6 fouls. I'm trying to tell you, the boys go from here. You have Game 7 to play. How does that happen? So they have Game 7, that'll be at 3:30 on Sunday on ABC, but 13 teams in NBA history have won a series after trailing 3-1. The 2003 Pistons are one of them, and they came back to beat the Magic. So there's a little area here that doesn't exist. We'll see you at halftime. Right now, we're going to send it to Houston for Game 6 of the Lakers and Rockets.
The Knicks in the second round tonight. We've got some friends. Game 6 clinching scenarios for the Magic at home against the Pistons, where we find Ohm Youngmisuk, and the Cavs are in Toronto with Jamal Collier. Let's start in O-Town with Ohm. And oh man, a Mario Kart blue shell couldn't have kept Detroit out of the 1 seed in first place in the East this season. Still, they needed a historic performance from Cade Cunningham in Game 5 to keep the season alive. What can you share about the Pistons' mindset in enemy territory, trying to even force a Game 7 tonight?
Well, they look pretty confident at shoot-around this morning and pretty relaxed, and I think they're starting to feel like they played a little bit more like themselves, the 60-win team, for really one whole game in Game 5. And they're going to try and carry that over. I asked Lasar Thompson this morning, did you guys look more like yourselves? Do you feel more like yourselves? He said, yes, we got up and down the court. We scored. Of course, the defense was there, the rebounding, the scrappiness. I asked J.B. Bickerstaff, is it just a matter of you guys looking like yourselves, playing Pistons basketball? He said, we fought, we punched, we scrapped. They're going to have to do it again tonight. I said, does it feel like you guys have life again in this series? He said, I always felt like we had life. Until that fat lady starts singing, we have life.
Well, it took 45 points in 44 minutes and 5 threes from Cade Cunningham to give them life. We'll see if they can distribute the wealth a little bit here tonight in Game 6. Ohm Youngmisuk, thanks so much for joining us here.
Thank you.
As for our other game in the East, our NBA reporter Jamal Collier has been covering this series since Game 1. Jamal, Raptors All-Star forward Brandon Ingram's status has been in question since exiting Game 5 with right heel inflammation. What's the latest you're hearing about BI and the team's mindset for tonight?
Yeah, Scooby, Brandon was not on the floor at shoot-around this morning for the portion of the media got to see right before the Raptors downgraded him to doubtful. That right heel has still been in pain and inflamed every time he tries to test it out. You know, he missed the second half of Game 5, as you mentioned. So the Raptors are prepared to play either way here in what's going to be an elimination game on their home floor. But R.J. Barrett said that actually plays right into this team's mindset and the style of play they've had all season. They're defense first, scrappy, fight, and those are the kind of traits you need to win an elimination game. It's the way that they've bothered Cleveland stars, Donovan Mitchell and James Harden, especially in these last handful of games. And the Raptors are going to try to keep that mindset going forward in this game. Really after that second half of Game 2 is when they start to get more comfortable. They started to sort of feel settled into this series, and they're going to try to keep that mindset here and try to force this thing back to Cleveland one more time.
Home court has been an advantage. The home team has won every game this series. Jamal, thank you.
Let's head back to Churchill Downs. Our sports betting analyst, Joe Fortenbaugh, joins in advance of the Kentucky Derby, and Joe's got his gold-plated bacon in front of him. We'll get to Saturday's main event in a second, Joseph, but let's start with tonight's 3 NBA games, elimination scenarios, starting with Cavs-Raptors. Where are you nibbling in that one?
Phil, I'm only holding this bacon to show you that it's not as easy to get as you might think. I literally had to beat Marty Smith up, toss him onto the track where he's laying in a pool of his own blood and dirt to get this bacon. You can see he's eaten some of it. But to business at hand, the NBA tonight, where we're going to start by laying 3.5 with the Cavs over the Raptors. Numbers actually up to 4.5 now, which is important to note because the Brandon Ingram injury is going to loom large here. Scotty Barnes is banged up as well. And when you look at Game 4, when these two met in Toronto, the line was Cavaliers minus 4.5. Now it's 4.5 as well with 2 guys that are hurt. I'm going to take advantage of what I see as perceived value. We're going to go ahead and lay it with the Cavs. Game number 2, Magic Pistons. We're looking to the total here, under 210.5 points. The total, average total for this series has been about 203.8. That's all they've been scoring, one of the lowest scoring series of the opening round. But we are coming off the hottest shooting effort of the series. They shot 41% from three-point range and 48% from the field combined in the last game. I don't see that happening again. A little bit of